What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Citizen JB, and today we're going to be talking about Homefront The Revolution. This game released as a buggy mess on launch, and I believe it released in May of 2016. It was a year before Assassin's Creed Origins got released in 2017 as well. But I'm just making a little bit of a disclaimer there, I guess. But either or, this game basically takes place in the year of 2029, is an alternate timeline, following Ethan Brady as a protagonist, and basically he's a little bit of part of a resistance movement against the army of the North Korean in the occupation in the city of Philadelphia. That's basically where this game takes place. This game is very much similar to that of a movie called, I believe it's called Red Dawn, if I'm not mistaken. Red Dawn has that same type of but has that same type of story to it as well. And that's where Homefront The Revolution really plays into very similarly. But overall, I just thought I'd want to put that little story snippet of what this game pertains and how it really makes the entire concept of this game in general, of why this game, I believe, it's definitely one of my favorites, but I wouldn't say it's my all-time favorite, but overall, it's still a great game in general. Like I said, you know, in the beginning of this video, this game did not do well. This game got a lot of really negative mixed reviews on it. And I could see the reason why, because like I said, you know, this game was released with it was a bloody mess. It got massive negative reviews on it, and it just didn't do well in the marketing and and product rating and everything else. And a lot of people didn't really like this game in general. Game Informer gave it a 4 out of 10. You know, some outlets out there also gave it to the same extent of a score like that as well, much like what Game Informer gave it. And quite honestly, I wouldn't say it's well deserved. It's just that, you know, what I'm trying to get to is that, you know, there are gamers out there, or even professional reviewers. You know, there's always going to be an opinion or preference of what games they like, and I thoroughly stand with that, because it's definitely true. Because what I'm trying to get to is that we all know what kind of games that we want to get into, or what games that we are eventually going to like. You know, whether if it's an Assassin's Creed, or whether if it's a Far Cry, or whether if it's a open world cooperative game like Ghost Recon Breakpoint or Ghost Recon Wildlands. But however, I think what Homefront The Revolution does, other than it being an open world shooter as it is, I really thoroughly enjoyed it though too. And what I really thoroughly enjoyed about it, it was the fact that it was not just because of the story. You know, very similar to that of Red Dawn, I guess I previously mentioned. It just had to do with the fact that, you know, they did a lot of drastic improvements. They did a lot of greatly improvements within this game after a full year, even if that. And it shows. It greatly shows of what improvements that they had to do. They had to do some, you know, obviously they did a lot of bug squashing. They did a lot of performance issue. The game had some really bad performance issues. And with all the patches that this game eventually ended up getting, it made the game so much better. But there is one thing I will mention here though too, is the gunplay. It's still a little atrocious. It's not as bad as it used to be, but I feel like that it's not as fluid enough and fun enough as to what Far Cry does. You know, especially Far Cry 6. And, you know, you can instantly tell between a game like this of old, back in 2016, and, you know, Far Cry 6 releasing, I believe it was about a year. No, it was last year it released. And so what I'm trying to get to is that when it comes to an older game like Homefront The Revolution and Far Cry 6, Far Cry 6 obviously is going to have much better fluid gameplay, especially with the gunplay aesthetic and concepts of it. And, you know, it's going to be very well noticed. But it's very noticeable with this game because, like I said, you know, the gunplay, it is fun, but it is also janky. And I think that's where the fault of this game really lies. Not just because of its story, but it's the gunplay. The gunplay, it's not realistic enough, even though it somewhat does kind of feel that way in certain areas of the game. But overall, I still believe that Homefront The Revolution, it really falls under amongst all FPSs out there. It really does, especially from a single-player experience. Now, one thing I will say about this game, though, too, is that, like I said before, I played this game from start to finish, and like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, you do have some really cool weapons, as you see here. You can get a crossbow, you can get any other weapons like a battle gun, and vice versa, and you can get grenade launchers and rocket launchers. You can wreak havoc, and that's another thing what makes this game so good. And to a certain type of extent, to where it's like the gunplay, like I said, it is janky, but overall, it provides that fun factor as well, because not just because of how old the game is, it just has to do with what this game is going to bring to you as a gamer, and how it could basically, be fun to you or even be fun to me. And I think that's another thing where this game should really fall under as well. Bear that in mind. Overall, I still had a really good, fun experience with this game. Now, another thing what I would say about this game, too, is that it has a really interesting, robust type of gunplay mechanics in this game, to where you can actually switch out any kind of weapons that you use, whether if it's the crossbow or like a battle gun or an SMG. You are able to combine different types of units, or like the mechanics of it, to where you can be able to switch for example, you can switch your crossbow to a shotgun. It has to do with what you can do to maintain a proper balance and efficiency of going into different types of combat, and that's where this game, I think this is where this game really helps itself to a certain degree. And, I do feel like that this game does know what it's doing, but at the same time, it falters. And what I mean by that, it just doesn't do well as much as you want it to. And like I said, with the gunplay, it is fun, but like I said, it's just janky. I know I keep on going back to this, but it's true. And it's kind of sad how much reception this game got, and I can understand why, because not just because of how old the game is, it just has to do with, the story. Sometimes I feel like it doesn't make sense. The character progression's all right. It's not as good as I thought it was gonna be, but overall, it was still a good game in general. And I like I said, I still had some good fun with it. And what I will say is that I would say when it comes to first-person shooters with single-player experiences like this one, this is not the best one I've ever played. I really think that when it comes to, I'm making a comparison again to Far Cry 6. I think Far Cry 6 just does things better because, the story is there. It's not convoluted like the way how Homefront The Revolution is. And the gunplay is so much fun, and it's so... The gunplay, it's fun, but like I said, it just sometimes it just doesn't always work the way it should. But, like I said, going back to the comparison of Far Cry 6, I feel like that Far Cry 6 just does things so much better in terms of its gunplay mechanics. It's tighter, it's more fluid, and that's where, like I said, that's where Homefront The Revolution fails in all fronts of that. Because the gunplay in this game, like I said, even though I did somewhat enjoy it, but it's very hard to try to get a good aim down, and you don't know where the enemies are going. They're going all over the place, and usually that's... Far Cry 6 was like that, though, too, but to me, it felt like the Far Cry 6 it felt a little bit more organic than from what Homefront The Revolution does. But that's just my own personal opinion on that. But overall, it's like, I still believe that Homefront The Revolution it's still a good single-player experience. I really think that if you really give this game a shot, it's not as bad as you think it is. I mean, after all the patches that this game had in the past, and it, like I said, it greatly shows of how much great improvements that they did with this game. And like I said, it's a much better experience, but overall, it's still not as good as it was, but it's better. to a certain degree. Now, what I will do here is, I think I might actually cut this whole entire video short, because I actually had this up to 18 minutes and 7 seconds. And so it's like, I feel like that I need to really work on my videos and making them shorter as long as I know what I'm talking about. And I feel like that when it comes to a game like this, I feel like I'm not going to talk as much as I want to. So please bear that in mind. So what I'm saying is here, like I said, I do highly recommend playing this game. It's good, but it's just not as good as you want it to be. And so I'm just saying, I guess this is one of those types of videos to where I basically, what I'm trying to get to is that I play this game so you don't have to type of thing. So I guess that makes it more sense to me. But anyways, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to reply back if and whenever possible. And so what I'm saying, though, too, is like, if you really want to pick this game up, I would highly recommend playing this game at a good bargain. I wouldn't pay full price like I did, so I'm just giving that heads up there as well. But anyways, like I said, this is Citizen JV. I'll catch you guys later on the flip side.